The Maine State Chamber of Commerce hosted a broadband summit today at Maple Hill Farm in Hollowell. Ben Lucas is a senior government relations specialist with the Chamber and was one of the keynote speakers. He says the Chamber is aligned with the governor's goal to ensure all Mainers can connect to the internet by the end of next year. He says they've advocated for funding to expand broadband in the state, and now they have those funds.
Now that we have received the investment, how are we spending these funds and how are they going out into communities? How are our private providers here in Maine deploying these funds? And how are we working to achieve, Governor Mills's ambitious goal of everyone being connected to internet by the end of 2024?
He says this is their first step to connect the people living in rural Maine without any internet connections.